Hey everybody, this is Matt Hines. Welcome back to Hines on Air. We got a fantastic show for you today. We have a very esteemed guest, Mr. Larry Corn has joined us. And today's topics, we're going to talk about all the craziness happening in Fulton County. Because right now, there are two big trials that are going on. One, there is Young Thug that has his RICO charges, and they're trying to go against him and others that are close to him. And there's also over in Cobb County, which is the suit's originally in Fulton, but it's in Cobb right now. Fani Willis and Nathan Wade fiasco on the affair. Have they given the appearance of impropriety, and should they be kicked off the Trump prosecution? So lots happening. Now, Mr. Larry Corn here has been practicing criminal defense for over 30 years. Is that right? Yep. All right. So 30 years. He actually knows many of the people that are involved in these court actions. So he's going to be here to talk about the cases and also to give his opinion on what the possible outcomes might be, because I know these are being followed all over. I see them all over social media. But it's exciting stuff. It's unfortunate that our country has devolved into this sort of a situation where we weaponize the legal system against political candidates and whatnot. But stepping back, it is somewhat exciting to watch. I hope the outcomes are fair and just for everyone. But so there we have it. So at first, I want to talk about the Young Thug trial, because as I understand it, Young Thug, who is a very popular rap artist who's been very successful, is being prosecuted under the RICO charge. And they're saying that him and a number of his band or his members of his musical group are actually not just a musical group, but are actually part of a gang who dealt out violent crimes and acts. Larry, do you know? Can you add on to that?
Sure. The gang organization, the RICO organization that they're alleged to be a part of, is called the YSL, which means Young Slime Life, something along those lines.
No.
It's been a long slog going through this trial. It took almost a year to pick a jury, right, because there are so many co-defendants. I think there's more than 20, or at least originally there were. Some have pled and fallen away, but this trial is still going on. There's still some others that, for whatever reason, have been separated. Probably not the way I would have done it. I would have done it in smaller groups, but they didn't elect me judge, so this is how it is.
Yeah. So I hear some of the deals that I've heard they've gotten are pretty sweet deals. I mean, some of these guys, with the serious charges that they had, they've served a year in jail, and now they're getting out after their deal and serving the rest on probation.
That's my understanding as well.
That's a pretty attractive deal. I mean, when you tell somebody you can get out of jail right now if you sign this paper, I guess you're kind of inclined to sign.
Yeah, I would.
I would too. All right, so this whole thing's based on RICO, right?
Yes.
All right, it's my understanding that RICO came about kind of back in the old mafia times when one of the underdogs would commit a violent crime, and they could catch him. They could prove that he did it, but there was really no way to get up to the Godfather or the Made Men or whoever was, at the top of the totem pole, right?
Right.
So they created RICO, which says if you're part of an organized crime syndicate or group, then even if you didn't actually commit the crime, if you're somehow involved in it, then we can get you. And that's how they were able to bring down a lot of the mafia figures, right?
That is correct. And that originally was a federal statute.
Yeah.
And that's who prosecuted most of the racketeering, most of the gangs back in the day. When I say gangs, I don't necessarily mean rap groups.
Right.
But organized crime as a whole.
Was this Giuliani? That was Rudolph Giuliani back in his heyday, right?
He was one of the first to use it well.
Right.
When he was the U.S. attorney for the Southern District of New York, I believe.
Okay. All right. Can you enlighten us a little bit on what that statute says?
Well, and there's a couple of differences between the federal statute and what we're dealing with here in Georgia.
Okay.
Under the federal rule, you had to prove that there were these underlying offenses and that there was a pecuniary gain to be made from that.
Like a monetary
Yes.
motivation.
Exactly.
Oh, interesting. I didn't know that.
That's under the federal statute.
Okay.
Here in Georgia, it doesn't say and, it says or. So they don't have to prove that pecuniary gain, the monetary interest. They only have to prove that they work together to get this, work together to commit these crimes, essentially.
Okay, so it can be any type of a crime,
Well,
even if it's not after money.
Right. It is actually limited to, I mean, I say it's limited, but there's actually such a wide variety of crimes. It's currency transactions, which is essentially money laundering.
Right.
Moonshining.
Okay.
Obviously homicide, assault and battery, which is a misdemeanor. Kidnapping, prostitution, burglary.
Let me ask you something on that, because this assault and battery, you mentioned that's a misdemeanor. So, but RICO's a felony, right?
Yes.
So if I was to batter someone, which is like hit them or touch them causing harm in some way, and that was part of an agreed upon plan by others.
In furtherance of that activity. Yes.
In furtherance, so that misdemeanor would become a felony.
That's true.
Kind of interesting. Okay.
It's like I said, it's really a wide ranging statute now.
Yeah.
And it's easier to prove than it is in federal court, but still difficult.
Gotcha. It's easier for the state to prove it.
Yes.
Just because of that or option there.
Exactly. Gives them more options to choose from.
And I think from what I've heard, they've thrown 191 acts, so to speak, that the gang has committed. It looks like in an effort to make something stick, because if one of them sticks, then okay, there we got our RICO organized whatever.
Yes.
Actions. Okay.
And for many of them that are charged, I mean, they're legit crimes. They're murder.
Right.
There's kidnapping. There's armed robberies. But for some, maybe not so much.
Right.
I mean, they can charge it with just about anything. I've seen burglary, misdemeanor theft, bribery. There's a charge in Georgia called what's it called? Embracery, which is not illegal hugging, as you might think, but is actually trying to corrupt a jury.
What's it called?
Embracery.
Embracery, and you're corrupting a jury. Yeah,
and that's one of the predicate offenses under the Georgia RICO statute.
Yeah, that sounds straight out of the mafia times, to be honest, because weren't they bribing juries and threatening jurors?
That was actually what happened quite a lot.
Okay.
And Capone had done it.
For sure. Yeah. Okay. All right. So I'll tell you what, let's jump to, based on your experience, what the law says and all that. What do you predict is the outcome of this thing, or do you have a prediction?
It's complicated because it's very difficult to get convictions for celebrity defendants, because they tend to be there are those that love them and those that just don't.
Right.
They're polarizing. But having said that, I think if it's a Fulton County jury, I think they'll have a hard time convicting Young Thug. Now, the others, there are some that are not rappers. There are some in this that are legit gang members.
Right. I think there was one guy was already in jail for life.
Yeah.
Yeah.
YSL's a real thing. I've represented members before. It's a difficult. It's a hard charge to beat when they can prove it. But they have gone after those guys in the past, not for RICO, but for gang activity, which is a separate statute in Georgia.
Well, I wonder, why wouldn't they just go after Young Thug under that statute if they think he's part of a gang?
I don't know that they can connect him to any of the real predicate acts under the gang statute.
It would sound like almost the same thing. If you're part of a gang. Yeah.
It's close, but is easier to prove RICO.
Easier to prove RICO,
so
okay.
I think in a large number of the defendants, I think there's a good chance they get convicted, but a Young Thug, I don't know.
Right. Yeah, I haven't seen much information about his level of involvement. I do think the defense. Yeah. In all the videos, there's not a lot there. I do think the defense has done a good job in portraying him as a guy with very difficult beginnings. I know I've seen in the opening statements that they defined thug as truly humble under God with that acronym, which is good because, the word thug is used as you kind of denote a criminal or criminal activity or,
It's been used pejoratively for most of its existence.
Right.
And I think he's trying to change that for his purposes and maybe for our purposes.
Well, that's good. I mean, given what we do, we both help people who are charged with crimes. Yeah. I like to think that someone's innocent until proven guilty, until beyond a reasonable doubt. I like to stand by that burden of proof, to the letter.
It's what I've based my career on.
Right. So I know Fani Willis, she ran her campaign, from what I know, on two major points. She was going to stop the gang violence in Fulton County, and she was going to get Donald Trump. And I think she's making good on those two promises.
Well, so she's certainly trying.
She's trying. That's right. So, all right. Well, I do wish the best for justice and also for young Thug. I personally don't like the possibility of someone losing their life and going to jail. So I see the good in people, and I want them to have a life, have a family, and contribute to society.
I'm with you on that 100%. I've always believed in the second chance.
That's right. Okay, cool. So, well, thank you for your opinion on that. I think RICO to me is a fascinating statute. It does seem to be one of those. Hell, I think I've even seen situations in some of our cases where like, you know what, we might could throw in a little RICO here and just to spice it up. It seems to kind of apply because it can be used civilly and not just criminally.
Oh, yes.
Yeah, right. And by the way, the RICO is certainly what Young Thug's being charged with, but that is also, I think, what Trump's being charged with in the Fulton County.
He absolutely is. That's right. His indictment, I haven't read the whole indictment because honestly, who's got time?
Right.
But it starts off with a narrative. It reads like a federal indictment reads. Most indictments, they are, here's count 1, here's count 2, here's count 3, and they just do it. The Trump and co-defendant's indictment starts off with a narrative telling what happened, and then they go to the counts. And that's very much what big federal indictments look like. And so I was a little surprised to see that because that's not the way that office generally does it. But they did it for this one. They put a lot of work into it, a lot of time.
I wonder if they wrote it.
I'm sure they did.
Yeah. Okay.
It took over 2 years to get to that point. So I think they must have. They did a lot of investigation. I will give them credit for that. They definitely put all their resources into getting to the bottom of whatever it is they got. Now, did they overcharge? Possibly, almost certainly, because that's what they do in many cases.
Right.
When I say overcharge, I mean they get more than they really can prove to a jury, but they know that puts pressure on the defense to defend that.
Right.
It's hard.
That's right.
You have to take time to defend against charges that you really shouldn't have to face, but that takes the focus away from the charges that maybe they can prove.
Right. Yeah. You think that pressures people more to take a plea faster?
I think that it tends to, yeah. I mean, there's certainly already been a couple of pleas in that case.
Right.
And that was very early on.
Right. That's right. There were a lot. I don't know, 3 or 4, maybe 5.
Right. The ones who filed speedy trial demands, because they knew they had to get it up and running in a hurry, and they found that the state actually was ready.
Right.
Much to their chagrin. And so they pled.
Yeah.
Mark Meadows.
Yep.
Yeah. Couple of the others have fled.
Yep. Do you think, all right, so have you been following the whole disqualification of Fani Willis in Fulton County?
Yes.
Okay.
And it's been interesting.
That has been interesting. It has been interesting, no doubt. I think they did closing arguments today.
Yes. I was watching a little bit of it earlier.
I watched a little bit of it myself. I couldn't take it. Do we know when we'll have an order?
Judge McAfee is he's relatively new to the Fulton bench, but he's an experienced criminal defense or criminal prosecutor.
Oh yeah.
Prior to being on the bench,
yeah.
An excellent prosecutor. He's worked in Fulton. He's worked in the federal system. he knows what he's doing.
He seems to be very qualified. He listens. He makes rational decisions and responses. I've been impressed with watching him.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And with good reason.
Yeah.
I think it'll probably take a couple, 3 weeks at least for him to. He'll write a full order that will read like a narrative, and he will make sure he covers all the bases. To me, I don't know that they've established a reason to either dismiss or remove Ms. Willis, or as she likes to be called, Madam DA. That's true, by the way.
Okay.
She's tough. She was tough on that witness stand.
She's a battler, that's for sure.
For that, no doubt.
All credit to her for that.
Yeah.
And the lawyer who's the ADA who's representing her on that, Adam Abate, is one of my good. I've known him for many, many years.
Yeah.
Since he was an assistant solicitor general over in Cobb.
Okay.
But he's in Fulton now.
Yeah.
And he's one of the deputy district attorneys, and he knows what he's doing. He's a very good lawyer, and he'll make good arguments, and I'm sure he's ready to go.
Okay.
I also know a good number of the defense lawyers in this. Ashley Merchant, who filed the original motion, is the president of the Georgia Association of Criminal Defense Lawyers. She's an excellent lawyer. She is a brilliant, ethical, just a zealous advocate for her clients.
Well, you got to give her credit. She found all this stuff in the divorce filings of Nathan Wade.
Not sure how she managed to do that.
Yeah.
It had been sealed. Even if it was not properly sealed.
Yeah.
But it's out now.
It's out now for sure. Yeah. Good for her. She's a fighter for sure. Sadow seems impressive too, because I've seen him cross.
I think he's as good as you can get in the States. So I think Mr. Trump did well. Now, his prior attorney, Drew Feinling's also excellent.
Yeah.
I would have gone with him just as easily.
Yeah.
He used to work in the public defender's office too many years ago.
Yeah. So what do you think? Do you have an opinion on whether she'll be disqualified?
I don't think she will.
No.
I think she ought to step down, but I don't think there's enough there to disqualify her. Do you feel the same way?
To me, applying that legal standard of the appearance of impropriety, I've never seen another case where that's been applied, but it seems to be a very low threshold. Now, there may be other ways to analyze it and apply the evidence and stuff, but the appearance, I do think there's definitely been an appearance of impropriety. The first witness testified that the relationship started long before, in 2001, before Nathan Wade was appointed. I couldn't tell if that girl was just angry. She gave very quick answers like, yeah, they were kissed, they hugged, affectionate. I couldn't. But now with the whole text dispute, Ashley Merchant had texted over Terrence, what's his face?
Terrence Bradley.
Terrence Bradley. Terrence Bradley had sort of condoned or agreed with what she had said. Now he's saying, well, he's not really sure. He might have been speculating. That if the issue is when did the relationship start, there's certainly an appearance that something wrong is there. I don't know.
I think what saves her is the fact that she is attempted to get other attorneys to take that job.
Yep.
Including Roy Barnes.
I saw that.
Governor of the state.
Yeah.
And some other really strong attorneys. And they just, for whatever reason, they didn't want to get involved or couldn't because of prior commitments or conflict or whatever. But he was not her first choice.
Well, let me
according
ask you,
to her.
I haven't listened to all of the testimony, but what I haven't what I haven't gotten past completely is Wade's office was paid about $650,000. The other two prosecutors who were more qualified than Wade, I think, were paid of a total of about $150,000 each.
Oh,
so that's my understanding. So I apologize if that's wrong. That's what I've gotten. So that has been my question: is why did he make so much more than the others? His contractual hourly rate was more than the other more qualified prosecutors. That's where I get this. There's an appearance of impropriety here.
I can't disagree with that.
No.
I do think there is that. Now, I've known Nathan as a defense attorney for many years. He's a very good lawyer.
Yeah.
Now, I don't know him as a prosecutor. I've never seen him prosecute anything.
I think that's been one of their
So
the issues they've taken with him is he wasn't qualified.
I mean, I like to think he could still do it based on his experience as a criminal defense, but
Yeah.
you know, it's the same laws apply.
That's true.
So if he knows, I'm sure he's seen many prosecutors get up and do their thing,
Right.
as I have.
Right.
Probably he could do it,
Yeah.
but I agree. There is the appearance,
Yeah.
and I would go in a different direction, but
Yeah.
I'm not the DA.
I know it's
Certainly not Madam DA.
well, I don't envy Judge McAfee because this is a tough one and the whole world's watching. So anyway, the one thing I would love to hear more on is what the hell was Nathan Wade doing at the White House before this all started? I think he was there twice. I think he billed for it. Trips to the White House.
Did not know that.
Yeah.
No.
That is like this. Now,
Wow.
Fani testified that they were never there together. So they didn't like go up as a couple or whatever and did all that. But he's been there, which kind of adds this whole nother layer of like, what the hell's that?
Is he tracking down some evidence?
I don't know.
What would they have there that has to do with, unless they recorded phone calls there? I mean, they already had a recording of the principal phone call
Yeah.
that the Secretary of State had and put out for everybody to see
Yeah.
about that perfect phone call.
Yeah. Yeah. I don't know. Hopefully we'll get into all this because that's the part with the people who are, I don't want to say conspiracy theorists because there's a lot of just, I don't know, questionable actions and decisions going on in all of this.
Sure.
But if he was at the White House shortly before he was appointed, that does seem odd. Anyway, we'll see. We'll see.
It's going to be a show, that's for sure.
It is. It is. So we're expecting Judge McAfee's decision. What you think in a couple weeks?
I think within a couple weeks.
Okay.
Because he knows that whatever's got to happen's got to happen soon.
True. That's right. All right. How about Young Thugs? They're still in trial, right?
They're still in trial. They've had some breaks because of one of the defendants was sick or had been stabbed. Another had been stabbed, and a couple of the lawyers have been out, and they've had to slow down. It's been such a sludge
Yeah.
fest. I mean, they're just going so slow.
Yeah.
I'm good friends with one of the defense lawyers, and it's just driving him crazy because he has a private practice, and there's just nothing he can do about it.
Yeah. Wow. All right. Well, listen, Larry, thank you very much. Very insightful. Good.
Pleasure was mine.
Absolutely. Good information about the RICO statute, a complicated statute that is being now used against Young Thug, also used against Donald Trump. So we'll see, folks. Thank you for joining us. I've been another Hines on Air. If you have any questions or you want to comment on anything that you heard today, please post your questions. Be sure to like this video. Please subscribe to the channel. And as always, we hope to see you next time on Hines on Air.